Hey everyone, so today we are going to talk about another non-elementary function which is nothing but the beta function. So in earlier lecture we talked about gamma function, which was again a kind of non-elementary function. You can have a look and do have a look because I'll be referring that lecture a couple of times. So this I have already talked in my earlier lecture, so I'm not going to spend time here again. So what is a beta function and why do we study now? The reason is same as that for the gamma function. This also falls under the category of improper integrals. To be precise, type 2. So for beta function there are two inputs. For like gamma function there was one input. For beta functions there are two inputs and it is defined as an integral 0 to 1. As you can see, the domain is bounded, so it is not of type 1. Then t raised to first component minus 1 into 1 minus t raised to second component minus 1 dt. Where m and n are what? They are positive real numbers. So this is how beta function is defined. Now as you can see, when my m and n they are bigger than 1, then this is positive. So this is nothing but a polynomial when you multiply inside. So it's easy to solve. And when they are between 0 to 1, then this power becomes negative. So they come in the denominator. So if m is between 0 to 1, then this comes in the denominator, and in such scenario my 0 will be a problematic point and hence improper integral of type 2. When n is between 0 to 1, then this becomes negative, so this comes in the denominator, then 1 will be the problematic point and hence again improper integral of type 2. So yeah, that's one observation one should know. Okay, so that's how beta function is defined. Now, like gamma function, we hardly use gamma functions to solve the problem. We have seen very nice properties and we use those properties to solve a problem related to gamma function. And if the properties can be used, then you go by the definition. Here also we are going to see a couple of nice properties and the relations which will help you to solve problems on beta functions. And if those can't be applied, then you go by the definition. Okay, so the first property is the symmetricity. Symmetricity means what? If you interchange m and n, your answer remains the same after applying the beta function. That means beta of mn is same as beta of nm. That means what? Integral 0 to 1 t raised to m minus 1 1 minus t raised to n minus 1 dt is integral 0 to 1 t raised to n minus 1 1 minus t raised to m minus 1 dt. This is what the relation one has to prove, and this is called as a symmetric relation. Well, the proof is easy. So in place of for n minus 1 you have 1 minus t, and here you have only t for n minus 1. So obvious substitution you should do on the left hand side is you put x equal to 1 minus t. When you do that, when x is 0, t is 1, so this becomes 1 to 0. What is my t? It is 1 minus x. So 1 minus x raised to m minus 1, x raised to n minus 1. And what is my dt? It is minus dx. Now we interchange the limit, minus will come outside and this minus goes away. So you have 0 to 1, x raised to n minus 1, 1 minus x raised to m minus 1 dx. You replace x by t, you get the answer. So simply one substitution gives you a proof. Okay, so that was one thing. Now there is another very nice relation, or I will say the connection between beta and gamma function. And now what is that connection between beta and gamma function? It says that beta of mn is nothing but gamma of m into gamma of n upon gamma of m plus n. So this is a very nice relation. I'm not going to prove it because it will take a lot of time, but this is a very nice relation between beta and gamma function. And now you can see the things becomes very much easier if someone asks you what is beta of 100 comma 1000. If you go by definition, it will take hell lot of a time, right? So but here if you see what is this gamma of 100, and I know that from my earlier lecture when it's an integer, gamma of positive integer, gamma of 100 is nothing but you subtract 1 and give a factorial sign. What is gamma of 1000? 999 factorial. What is the addition? 1100. What is gamma of 1100? 1099 factorial. So say like with this relation you get the answer in one line, and if you go by the definition it will take a lot of a time. So that's why these relations are very much important to know, because this will reduce your job. Another thing is, suppose if someone asks you what is beta of minus half comma 2. Now you will say that at the start I told that m and n are positive real number. Then how can you take negative? Well, thanks to this relation, I can take negative. The only thing I have to take care is when I add this 2, I should not get 0 or negative integer, because I know that gamma is not defined for 0 and negative integer. So if you take those two components whose addition is 0 or negative integer, then yeah, beta is also not defined. But here now this is defined, because this is what gamma of minus half. Gamma of 2 is nothing but 1. And what is gamma of the addition? 2 minus half. So 2 minus half is nothing but 3 by 2. And this we already found in earlier lecture. So just try to find this, pause the video and tell me what is the answer for this question. Okay. So yeah, so this properties or this connection is very much important. Now another important connection is between the beta function and the trigonometry functions. Now see, if someone asks you what is integration of sine theta and cos theta, you can directly use sine double angle and you can tell the answer. But if someone asks you what is sine raised to 99 theta and cos raised to 137 theta, then things becomes quite difficult, right? But then yeah, beta function gives you a nice connection between this product of sine and cosine. And the result is integral 0 to pi by 2 p power of sine theta into q power of cos theta. This is equal to half of the beta function. Half of the beta function. What is the first component? This here you have p, so p plus 1 by 2. Here you have q, so q plus 1 by 2. Well, the proof is very easy. In the definition of beta function, you simply put your t equal to sine square theta. Once you do that, your limit will change and you have t raised to m minus 1. So sine 2m minus 1 theta into 1 minus t. But what is 1 minus sine square? Cos square. So 1 minus t means cos square n minus 1 theta d theta. Call this as p, call this as q, you will get the answer. Okay, change the limits. So yeah, so it's a very simple problem. So try to prove this. Okay, if you don't get, you can ask me in the comment section. But yeah, try to prove this relation. And now see, thanks to this, I can now easily solve this question. If someone asks you what is sine raised to 99 theta, cos raised to 137 theta d theta. What is this? 1 by 2 beta of p plus 1 by 2. 137 plus 1 by 2. Right? 137, 138. 138 means 2 6s and 2 9s. 69. Right? And what is this? 1 by 2. Now you know what is the connection between beta and gamma function. So gamma of 50, which is 49 factorial, gamma of 69, which is 68 factorial, upon their addition. What is the addition? It is 9 and 11. 119. What is 119? It is 118. Gamma of 119 is 118 factorial. So like if a couple of minutes ago, if I would have asked you, it would have taken a lot of time. But now you can see in 2 lines, you get the answer. Thanks to those beautiful relations. So here is one more relation that we use frequently. It connects beta function whose integral limits are 0 to 1 to this integral whose limits are 0 to infinity. It's y raised to second component minus 1 upon 1 plus y raised to addition of the components. And again this is connected with this 0 to 1. Okay. So well, to go from here to here is easy. You simply take y equal to u upon u plus 1. You do this substitution over here, and once you do this, you get the answer over here. So this one I'm not going to solve. You give a try. If you get stuck, you can ask me in the comment section. I'm going to prove this equality. Now see, if I want to start with the left hand side, I have 0 to infinity. Whereas there I want to prove 0 to 1. And 1 is between 0 to infinity. So what's the obvious thing you do? You bring 1 into the picture. So 0 to infinity is nothing but 0 to 1 y raised to n minus 1 1 plus y raised to m plus 1 dy plus integral 1 to infinity y raised to n minus 1 1 plus y raised to m plus n dy. Now here you have 0 to 1, so don't touch this. Simply replace your y by x. So when you replace your y by x, this is what you have: 1 plus x m plus n dx. Now here you have infinite and you want to bring the limits 0 to 1. So if you have infinite, how will you bring 0 into the picture? So obviously you take the reciprocal. So you substitute y equal to 1 by x. When you do that, your limit will be 1 to 0. Okay, and then when you solve this thing, what you get is the other part. Here you have n minus 1, right? So here you will have 1 to 0, sorry, here you will get 0 to 1, x raised to m minus 1 upon 1 plus x raised to m plus n. And when you add, you get the answer. So that's how one should think of it. Now first thing you need to find is beta of half comma half. Now to find this, you use the relation of beta in the trigonometry one. That's sine raised to p theta into cos raised to q theta. So if you compare that with this, your p plus 1 by 2 is 1 by 2, your q plus 1 by 2 is 1 by 2. And if you try to find p and q, it will come out to be 0. So this is integral 0 to pi by 2 sine raised to 0 theta cos raised to 0 theta, which is 1. So I think you will get pi as an answer over here. So try to solve this. Now to find gamma of half, in earlier lecture I told you that gamma half is root pi, and to prove that you need double integration. But here you can use the relation between beta and gamma function. So hint is, you use that relation between beta and gamma function. So beta of half comma half is gamma half into gamma half upon gamma of half plus half. Use that relation, use the value of beta of half comma half from here, and you get the answer as root pi. If you don't get, you can ask me in the comment section. For the third one, now this is the relation that I want to prove. Now where m and n are natural numbers. Now since they are natural number, I know that this is nothing but gamma of m plus 1. This is gamma of n plus 1 upon gamma of m plus n plus 1. So this is what I want to prove. Now let's go over here. Now here is 0 to 1 and here is gamma. So I know that beta function can be used because there is a connection between beta and gamma function. So it is 0 to 1, but in the beta function I have 1 minus t raised to m or some power. So instead of this, I have t in the picture in the definition of beta function. So obvious substitution you will think is, put t is equal to x raised to 1 by n. So this will imply that your dt is 1 by n, x raised to 1 by n minus 1 dx. So when I do this change over here, my limits will remain same. I have 1 minus t raised to m into, what is my dx? It is n dt upon x raised to 1 minus n upon n, right? Now this is what 0 to 1, n will come outside. This is 1 minus t raised to m, and what is this? My x is what? My x is t raised to n. So when I put t raised to n over here, that n and this n will go away, and I will have t raised to 1 minus n, and when I bring this in the top, it will be t raised to n minus 1 dt. Okay, and now this is nothing but n into beta of m plus 1 comma n, because it is m minus 1, but you have only m, so therefore beta of m plus n. Now what is this? This is gamma of m plus 1, this is gamma of n, but n into gamma n is gamma n plus 1 divided by gamma of m plus n plus 1. So using that relation of beta and gamma function, you get the answer. So that's how one should think. You had this x raised to 1 by n, so you put that as your t. Okay, let us take one last example. Now here you have 0 to 1 and here you have factorial. So kind of beta and gamma connectivity you should think of. Okay, now here you have ln in the picture. Now how to get rid of ln? So like if you have a 2 number, how do you get rid of 2? You multiply by its inverse. What is inverse of log? Ln, it is exponential. So I know that ln of e raised to t is nothing but t, because this t comes at the front, ln of e is 1, right? So I can think of substituting x equal to e raised to t. So like this way, this will be e raised to tm, and this is nothing but t only, so I have t raised to n. I'm getting rid of log. And now when x is 0, so my exponential is never 0, so then t has to be minus infinity, because then 1 upon e raised to infinity is 0. But I don't want minus infinity, because I can't use gamma function, because for gamma I have 0 to infinity. So what to do is to substitute x equal to e raised to minus t. So when you do that, when is your x 0? When t is infinite. When x is 1, my t is 0, and this is what you have. And then what is my dx? My dx will be minus e raised to minus t dt. So this will be what? minus e raised to minus t dt, right? And here you have what? Sorry, so here you have e raised to minus tm, and here you have minus t raised to n. And what is minus t raised to n? It is minus 1 raised to n into t raised to n, and that's how you can see minus 1 raised to n comes into picture. And you interchange this, minus sign will go away, apply the definition of gamma function, you get the answer. So that's how one should think, that if you have log, how to remove the log. Okay, suppose if you have something integral 0 to 1 cube root of x ln of 1 by x dx. So this is x ln 1 by x whole raised to 1 by 3 cube root. Now again, I have ln, I want to remove ln. What will I do? I will put 1 by x equal to e raised to t, or x equal to e raised to minus t. You go by that way, you will get rid of log and you can get the answer. So that's how one should think of problems on beta and gamma function. So I hope these are clear. If you have any other doubt, then you can ask me in the comment section. And if this is clear, then yes, do not forget to like, share and subscribe. Thank you.